is mine.
All right, welcome to the March 15th Working Paws Trainer Talk. Tonight we're talking about distractions. So we do have kind of a small group tonight, but we might have some more people join us. If not, we're happy to chat amongst the three of us. We have our other Working Paw admins. I'm Penny Beeman, and then we have Cindy Campbell from Cindy Campbell Dog Training and Ashlyn Holt with her service dog Lily. So we're going to get right started in with our very first question. So since it's in this order on my screen, I'm going to ask the question. We'll let Cindy answer, then I'll answer because that's the order on my screen. And then we'll have Ashlyn answer. And Ashlyn, you can type them in the chat if you want to. So very first question. What is your dog's biggest distraction? And along with that, kind of like describe their reaction to that distraction as well.
Cats and big birds like geese. And he'll start out with, he gets kind of in this funky prancy thing where his front feet go up and down like this. And if he had erect ears, they'd be up doing this number looking around. But being a poodle, he doesn't. He's definitely getting ready. And if he hadn't been taught more disengagement, if he hadn't been taught any disengagement, he would actually excite himself to the point of pointing and then going after. We actually, tonight there was a cat near his potty area and it didn't want to move, and I actually used it for distraction training. But if he were to have his druthers, he would actually chase them. And
right.
That's not happening.
Right. So Azul's biggest distraction is dogs. And it's in a friendly fashion. He wants to play with all dogs. But in the height of his adolescence, especially when he's in that over-aroused state or, borderline aroused, super aroused, excited, and close to redlining, he has decided that it's fun to try to hold the other dog down. And he doesn't do it in a mean, he doesn't even use his mouth. He likes to just use a paw and do it. But in my mind, that's not fair to the other dogs. So I'm being very, very careful with the dogs I let him play with, mostly friends that I know will either get out of it or don't mind it and will turn around and do the same or similar. They don't usually hold him down. If they did, maybe he'd stop. But, then they will put their paws on him too, because he's got some really good friends that are all really close to his size and age, and they all kind of play a little bit rougher with each other because they know each other so well. But I'm at the point to where he's not playing with any strange dogs at all. For one, because his excitement gets too high too fast, and for two, because he can't hear me in that excitement, so he won't stop when I ask him to stop. And then he starts to become the bully of the playground in as nice of way as possible, but still the bully. And I won't let him get away with that. So if we meet a dog on the trail, his go-to is to lay down because he sees the dog off at a distance. And we played a lot of the look at that game. And because I didn't want him learning to lunge, he was always cued to sit, which he doesn't really care to sit. So he would choose the down. And then as the dog, he's fine with the dog approaching. And especially if it's a small dog or a puppy, he will hold his downstay and sniff the other dog just fine. But if the other dog is not one that wants to sniff and it tries to walk past us, that's where he decides he wants to lunge or get carried away because he missed the opportunity to smell. So then he's trying to race to them and pull me to them to smell. Again, none of it is at all fearful or worried. He was kind of a little bit nervous about one dog one time, and that dog was on a prong collar, and we happened to have a different puppy with us, not the one that I have in my house right now, but a different puppy. And so he was worried for that puppy, and he did bare his teeth a little bit at that dog, which I understand, but I was as far back as I could be, and I would have liked to have been another 5 feet off the trail if I could have, and that whole situation would have been better. But so he definitely is overexcited and playful when he sees a new dog. If he sees a friend, say we're doing one of the training sessions in Home Depot or the hardware store or wherever, he will be excited when he first sees them, but then he recognizes them and it's okay. And he instantly snaps right back into work mode. So he can do that with his friends, but when it's an unknown dog, his desire to get up to them and see them and meet them is so strong that it really is hard. Like the U-turns are out of the question because he doesn't want to turn his back. I can turn at a 90-degree angle and walk away and put distance because then he thinks we're going to go back so far, which we usually do, and then sit and let him watch the other dog pass. He doesn't like to let the other dog out of his sight. So that's the work in progress and what we're trying to work on, but we can't really work on it much more than we have until weather is nicer. So Ashlyn, what is Lily's biggest distraction? And Lily's kind of older. She might not have any major distractions. I know she loves kids. Oh, cats. Yeah, she gets excited about cats, but when she can get her to sit and calm down, well, that's good. And then dogs are where she just wants to play, but she's under control now. And then horses. Horses are actually a big one. Azul has only really seen horses in the pen until just about a week ago, where he was watching a horse come running at us. But so when Lily sees horses, she's usually wanting to smell them and she's okay and under control. She just wants to smell. That's pretty
Yeah.
good, actually.
Yeah, Penny, I think it's important to note that all dogs have distractions, even service dogs, and all dogs, even service dogs, puppies, are going to go through a distraction phase. And it depending on the dog's level of arousal when they're around their distractions is going to depend on how much training the trainer is going to have, the handler is going to have to give that dog. And we're not talking pops and shocks and jerks and things like that. We're talking about teaching them how to manage, giving them some
The
help with
higher
their
arousal.
emotional, with arousal and their emotional regulation. Like today, Nick has really, really struggled with cats. And today I had him out in front of a cat. Actually, we did cats twice today, which is probably part of the reason he's not coming down. But I had him out in front of a cat and I was walking him back and forth and I was having him do sits and things in front of the cat because I wanted to see where he's at. And he can do it. He's still struggling with it. But I think it's something we need to be aware of. And it's something that needs to get out in the service dog community that, we're selecting these great dogs, but
Every
that
dog
doesn't
has a
mean
weakness.
that they're going to, that they're going to be 100% of the time from the time they're 8 weeks old. They're going to have issues with distraction. That's just how it is, and it may be another dog, and then when they get around, they say adolescence is the worst, but, from 2 to 3, you still have a whole nother young adulthood where there's a whole nother set of distractions that's going on.
Right. So question number 2, what is your favorite game, practice exercise, or method of dealing with a high level distraction? So the distraction that your dog is like over the top, maybe not like wired, because you can't really do anything when they're wired, but when they're extra excited or extra aroused. What's your favorite go-to exercise or game? Cindy?
Well, we have 3 that we play consistently. We do toy cue toy, and I do multiple varieties of this. I'll use a chaser, or I have a cat teaser or chaser. It's not a chaser toy. I call it the whip. It looks like
Like a flirt pole.
yeah, flirt pole. Anyways, I use a flirt pole, or I use a chaser, or I use we don't use balls in the house, but I have a squirrel I throw in the house. And so what you do is, like, usually I'll give a few free for alls and let him get into the game. And then when he brings me the toy back, like if we're playing with squirrel, when he brings me the squirrel back, then I'll ask for a sit or a down or a combination of multiple behaviors. And he's got to think in arousal to do those behaviors. But he gets way more excited with the flirt pole. So I try and do it with him with the flirt pole as well, because he gets way more excited. And when he's more excited, it's, he's still having a hard time thinking. We also play toy switch, which I think is really valuable, because I've really seen where he's grown in his ability to do that. And what I do is I get 2 chasers, and I have him, I'll play chaser with one, and then I'll tell him switch, and I'll stop moving the one and I'll start moving the other one. And as soon as I say switch, he starts looking for the other one now. And it wasn't always that way. It just takes time to get to the point where they know they have to learn that, okay, I'm getting a cue. I need to switch to the other toy. And I think it's helped him tremendously, just to learn how to focus and to think in arousal, and to realize, hey, I don't have to be a jerk every time I'm walking down the street just because I get super excited. And it's helped him, when I take him on walks on the path or wherever we go. He's always been good in stores, but where there's more things, where you're going to see squirrels and cats and more dogs, those games have helped him significantly.
I totally agree. Azul is the same way. We do a lot of flirt pole and a lot of other games to that effect. And it really has helped him in a very high arousal stage. So, kind of an example, because I've been talking about dog parks a lot. We have a very slow dog park, and especially in the winter, it's even slower. So, I don't necessarily recommend a dog park to everybody, but it works for us the way that we do it. So right now, since I'm not letting him play with strange dogs, we were on the smaller side of the fence area, because there's 2 sections, with his buddy. And then there was a 5-month-old German Shepherd puppy on the other side, along with another dog. But Azul was infatuated with the German Shepherd puppy. So he was running to the fence trying to greet it. And the puppy, of course, was a little bit afraid of Azul's over exuberance. So the puppy would run away, and that would excite Azul even more, because he wanted to get through the fence. I have a puppy that's trying to chew on stuff again. And he would actually, I could give him the cue to leave it and go run with his buddy. And he actually, even in that high arousal state where he really wanted the puppy, he was able to leave the fence and move away to give the puppy a chance to calm down. So his thing is, in that kind of situation, if he thinks I'm getting ready to leave, he doesn't want to stop. But as long as he thinks that I'm calling him to a different part of the dog park or to play a different game, then he'll happily stop whatever he's doing with that other dog at the fence, because he knows he can go back and do it in a little bit. And that's the only way we don't leave, because if he won't be called away from the fence, we leash up and leave right away. So he has learned that so that helps him kind of calm himself down when he's willing to disengage, and then he can re-engage and disengage multiple times in a highly aroused state, because of those games and the cues that we do with flirt poles and chasers and tug toys and all of that. So, Ashlyn, do you have an answer there? I'm sure she's typing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Well, the
really,
flirt,
really appreciate the fact that I started playing those games with Azul early because he would not be where he is today if it wasn't for those types of chaser and
the
cue
chasers and the
games.
flirt poles are so nice because you can simulate a squirrel, a bunny, something ground loving, that runs along the ground. Okay, so we have Ashlyn's answer,
Mhm.
and it says, I have Lily come in front of me and sit facing me. I ask her for a few hand touches. Then I love the look at that game.
Yeah, that's a really good game too. I taught it
Mhm.
to Azul as a puppy, and now we don't need to play it anymore because when he started doing his downstay to watch the puppy or the dog that was coming our way, I knew he had the game idea and he was a little too good at the game. So it was time to switch it up to a different game. But it is a great game, especially, I mean, it can be played with any dog of any age, but if you have a younger dog, it's great to start there. You just have to
It's also
be careful.
it's also great to top off their skills periodically with that.
Right.
And if Nick still plays it in the house based on sounds because there's some sounds he doesn't like, and he needs to be reminded that they're not his business.
Right. So, our third question, and sorry for my distractibility. I have a 5-month-old puppy that it's her time. Like, she really wants me to give her a bone to chew on. But if I give her a bone to chew on at this time of night, she's going to go crazy and not be able to fall asleep. So while her jaw really wants to chew, it overstimulates her to the point that she can't focus the next one. So I'm avoiding that. So the next question is, have you ever turned a distraction into a reinforcement? Go ahead, Cindy.
Well, not with Nick yet. With Poe, yes. So Poe loves little kids. She loves cuddling them. She loves being cuddled by them. And she looks like a great big white polar bear, living stuffed polar bear. And so when I would have her out with me various places, especially if we were having a long day and she was being really good, if there was a nice child that asked politely to pat her, I would encourage that because that was what Poe wanted. And I discourage a lot of other people from doing it. But the nice kids that asked politely before, that approached correctly, basically, I would encourage that as a reward so that she wouldn't go running over, but she was never allowed to run over towards people, even though that's how she would have preferred to greet people.
That was the first one that I did too, the reinforcement or the distraction I turned into reinforcement, and much the same way. When Azul was, say, younger than 5 months, he greeted everybody as long as he could do it calmly because I wanted him to be super social and he loved it so much. But at some point, I needed him to be able to ignore people too, to be a service dog. So we started the ignoring people while we were working in the store, whether we were training or I was doing shopping or whatever, ignore people in the store. And as soon as we checked out, or as soon as we got on the other side of the checkouts, then we would hang out there for 5, 10 minutes and just greet everybody that walked by. So he knew
Mhm.
he could ignore them in the store. And if somebody asked a pet, I might occasionally allow it, but not when I first started using it as the
Right.
reinforcement. But once he got it, occasionally now I allow it in the store. But we always find somebody between the outside area of the checkout and the car that wants to pet him. And we still do that on almost every outing we take. Somewhere in
And it,
between there's always somebody that wants to pet him.
yeah, that's a pretty easy reward to obtain.
Another one that I do is use his love of dogs, although that one's a little bit harder. But so we'll take that flirt pole when weather is nicer and play with it about 100 feet or so away from the dog park. And if he disengages from wanting to go to the dog park to play with me, we end up rewarding and going to the dog park. Now, how long we play depends on what other dogs are in the dog park. If there's somebody in there that I don't like their behavior, we play longer or we go for a walk or do whatever. But usually I can circle back to being able to get in the dog park. Puppy's trying to get in the crate and she closed the door on herself. But all right. And then the other one that I've done is sniffs or smells, because we do a lot of outside sniffabouts. And Azul knows that if he pulls me to get to a smell, and occasionally he has pulled me off my feet, but if he pulls me off my feet, that ends our sniffabout right then and there. We're done. We head to the car and leave. But if he doesn't pull me and he waits, then when we get up to that thing that he really wants to smell, then I will let him smell as long as he wants. So it may take us longer to do our hike, but he's getting what he wants out of the hike as well, because as long as he doesn't pull me, he can smell it to his heart's content.
Well, that's a really good reward to give them. I'm really thinking that Nick is going to need cats as a reward, but it's going to take a while for him to be able to look at the cats as a reward.
Right. And how, like, not all cats love dogs. So how you can set up a training session in order, with a cat that does love a dog and willing to greet a dog is going to be challenging.
Well, I have one that I think is training Nick.
That's good.
So Ashlyn says, I use kids also, and greeting people, also use dog-friendly cats.
Yeah, so we're very much on the same page. We have a lot of the same ones. So
I don't think I'm going to find dog-friendly geese, though.
Right.
But one of the things I'm looking at doing, just mostly for Nick's, I think that it would give him some outlet as a hunting dog, is to get him involved in hunt test.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they have to hold a stand depending on whether they're flushing or not, but they either have to flush, which means they get to chase the birds up, or they have to go retrieve the bird. So they have to hold something, but they get rewarded by going and getting the bird or causing the birds to fly. So I think that would be a good thing for him, because I think that would help some of his energy.
And so puppy witching hour has begun behind me. So sorry if you hear barks and whatnot. She pulled the looking mat out of her crate and carried it over to the bed. And then she totally was rolling upside down. And now the bed's a mess with like covers everywhere and whatnot. And she's just getting anxious. So I did have a fourth question in case we went through them all, but I kind of forgot what it was because I didn't write that one down.
Oh, I was going to say, I can't even find my phone, and my phone finder's gone for the time being.
Yeah. He's out having an adventure, huh?
He's sleeping in the bathroom.
Oh.
But
yeah. And we have a few minutes left. We could talk more about distractions, but I think if anybody wants to learn more, they can always check out the youperpaws.com blog this month, because it's all about distractions.
There's, I think that you can't underestimate what distractions are, and you can't overtrain for distractions.
Right.
There's places like so I took Poe to Siegfried and Roy's secret garden, and they let me take her back where the big cats were. So there was a lion and a cheetah and a leopard and a jaguar and a tiger, and I forgot what else. But everybody was cool with Poe going back there except the tiger. The tiger didn't like her, and the tiger was getting a little rowdy for her. So we had to immediately leave. But you can't really prepare your dog for something like that.
Right.
it may be something that happens or not happen. But we also on that trip, this was in Las Vegas, and we also on that trip saw dolphins. And then I happened to I was walking down the strip, and I ran into a guy who was charging people to pat his boa constrictor. He wanted me to pat the boa constrictor, and I'm like, no, we had those in college. And he's like, what? But you don't, I think that what people need to understand is their dogs can react at any time to anything, whether you expect it or not. I think a good example of animals reacting was Queen Elizabeth had one of her horses spook on her during the trooping of the colors one year as she's riding its side saddle. And I'm gonna guess that a horse that the Queen of England is riding side saddle is well trained and well prepared for crowds and that kind of thing. So I don't think distractions is something we can overtrain for.
Right.
And
And we can just do a little plug while we have a minute about the Focus Around Distractions workshop coming up next week. It starts the 21st through, I believe it's the 24th or 25th. 24th, I believe, 4 days. So 21st through 24th. And we have a different topic every night. There's a fun Zoom. Well, actually, we launch it in the morning every morning, so you can listen to it any time of day. So there will be a website with a fun Zoom for you to listen to and 2 fun games to play with. And we hope everybody will join us. If you need to register for that, you can look for Paws on Facebook, and you'll be able to see it in our events, or contact me from uperpaws.com, and I can also get you the information for registration. It is free to anybody who wants to participate. So we hope to see a lot of people join us in that event. Anything anyone else wants to add before we run out of time here? I'm not hearing anything or seeing anything. So we will end here. And you guys have a good night.
Okay, and enjoy your puppy.
Yep. One more day and she goes home.